Okay, welcome to the Unit 1 learning activity. So in machine learning, each unit will have a learning activity, which will be an assignment to kind of give you some chance to go over and learn some of the material. So it'll be linked in here. There'll be this video, this is it, here, and then also a link to a notebook. The notebook should open up in Google Colab. Here. So Google Collab is the online system we're using to run these notebooks. And it'll be an environment where we can type in some code and run these notebooks in an environment called Collab. These are often called Jupyter notebooks or Iron Python notebooks that we'll be running. If you click on this link and you get an access denied or something like that, you're often logged into the wrong account, so you should access this through your CSS account. So if I'm right now signed in into a non-CSS account, if I were to click on this and switch to my CSS account, I should be able to open this up. Okay, so this is our Collab notebook. These are like Google Docs, except they're in a special format. Generally, they have this ending on them, IPYNP or NB. It's an old version because it used to be called Iron Python Notebook, and it's an old abbreviation of that. But these are stored in Google Drive. If I go to my Google Drive, and I scroll down, there should be a special folder for Collab notebooks, and then inside that Collab notebooks is where they'll be stored. Now when you first click on this link, you will open up my copy of the notebook, and you'll want to make your own copy. So the first instructions are here is to go to File and say Save a Copy in Drive. So I'll just go to here and say Save a Copy in Drive, and that would save a copy from my drive into your Google Drive area. And once you have your own copy, you can change your name on it, put your name here. Now the other thing we'll want to do with each of these notebooks is there's a write-up with questions that you have to answer in it, and so there'll be a link here to the write-up document here. And again, when you click on that, you should make a copy of that. So here's the write-up. And the write-up is just a simple Google Doc. So you can just store this in your Google Drive folder somewhere. Now when you submit things, you want to submit both a link to your learning, the notebook, and the write-up here. And in both cases, you'll want to share these with me or create a shareable link when you want to turn on these. So in your notebook, you can hit share, and then down here you can get a link and copy that link, and you can also change who can do it, but generally it should be set up so that anyone at Saints class can view the link, and you can copy that link and save it. And then similarly, in your notebook here, you can hit this share button, and you can similarly share this link with others. So you want to get the link down below and copy that link. Now I suggest you want to link these two together. So right now in your write-up, this link is going to my copy of the write-up. So once you've made your own copy, I suggest you put your own copy in the link down below. Similarly, here in the write-up, I suggest you put in a link back to the notepad. So having these two links back and forth will let you easily go back from your version of the notepad and write up rather than seeing mine, because you won't be able to edit mine, of course. Okay, so once you've set up your copies of those two documents, you're ready to go. And again, every unit will have a notebook with some code in it for you to go over and review, and then a write-up for you to answer questions on it. So you'll go through that. Now there's also a video again, and this is the video. It'll be linked both inside. So inside Brightspace, it'll be linked there, but it'll also be at the beginning of the notebook in case you want to review it there. So notebooks are broken into sections. So there'll be section 0, section 1, section 2, etc. For these notebooks. Now, in general, section 0, well, in general, you can go to any section and run them. And the expectation is that you might be spending an hour or so on these notebooks. Later on, they'll be more complicated. Well, they'll just, and they also require more time. At times we'll be getting to machine learning. Well, we'll have to train the machine, let the machine run through training stuff for like 4 or 6 hours or something. So later on we might get to notebooks where you'll open them up and then you'll have to run them for a while and then come back here. But either way, they're broken up into sections, and you're generally able to jump to any section. You go to do a section, and then later on, if you want to come back, you can go to the next section here. These sections you can minimize or maximize with the little arrow here, and they'll tend to tell you what how many. They'll hide the cells that were inside those sections as you go for this. But the one kind of difference here is section 0 will always contain some of the introductory stuff for the code for that stuff. So maybe libraries that all the section will need, or data that all the section will need. So whenever you use your notebook, you always have to run the code in the first two, in section 0 before you jump to another section. So let's just talk a little bit about these Python notebooks here. Now in section 3 of this, you actually do a review. So there's a nice link to an article about these Python notebooks. And again, these are often called Jupyter notebooks, although we're running them in Google's environment called Collab here. So again, this kind of walks you through what a Jupyter notebook is, and then does some examples. Now it talks about installing an environment for running this called Anaconda, and we'll talk about this separately. I did mention it in the setting up things. You can run Anaconda in your own set of software on your machine to run Jupyter notebooks on your own PC. But for this class, you really don't need to do this. You can run everything in Collab, so we won't have to do any installation if you don't want. That'll be an option if you want to do more advanced stuff, but it's certainly not required. So again, it talks about setting up these notepads. We'll always be using something called Python 3 as the underlying language, and that's the default, so you should never have to change or modify that. And then it talks a little bit about the notebook interface here, and two types of cells here called code cells and markdown cells that are available. So let's just go back to our notebook and look at those. I'm going to scroll up here to the very top. To section 0 here. So there are two types of cells. Some of the cells will have a little run button next to them, and these are code cells. So when I click on them, I can hit run, and it'll do the code inside those cells. Okay, sorry I took a break and made some updates to this that I've forgotten to do. Okay, so with a code cell here, you can hit the little play button here and run the cell and execute it. Now there are also these markdown cells. So these are text like cells. If I double click on a text cell, it'll show the information for it and also a preview. This is using something called Markdown, where we can use simple formatting up here to do things. So like here, this is a section, a heading, and so with headers I put a little pound sign at the front of it to set that up. Down here I have some bullet items, and I can put little dashes to make bullet items. It used to be you always had to enter these codes directly here, but now, like with Google, I can just use some of these controls to create a bullet list or the boldface or to change the heading level of information. It'll put in the codes for you, so you can either type these in directly or use this nice little handy toolbar at the top. And again, this is the code you're editing or the text you're editing, and here's the preview of what it'll look like. And it uses a simple language called Markdown. Okay, so we have these text cells and then these code cells. Going back to the code cells, you can hit this run button, but you can also hold down if you hold down Control Shift, it will run the cell. Shift Enter will run the cell and go to the next cell. So sometimes that's helpful to run through a series of cells for this. There's also information or options up here to run all the cells in a notebook or to run cells after the cell you are currently at and things like that. So there will be other ways of running these cells. Now when you run a cell, it puts a little number next to it to show that it's run. So like the cell down here, if I'm not over it, is 98. So I've been running lots of cells in the notebook, and so this is a 98th cell time I've run a cell on the notebook. It is important to run these in order here, because if you run a cell before other cells, you'll often get an error. So like if I scroll down here where we have a bunch of sample code here where we declare certain variables and set up. Now if I scroll down later on where I haven't run these in order and I try to run this cell, it will give me an error. Oops, it won't, because let me do that again, because I've already run all these cells in this notebook. Okay, so let me just quickly restart this notebook. So now none of the cells have been run yet, and now if I run one of these cells, if I hit the little play button or Control Enter, I'll get an error because I'm trying to use this variable and it's defined up above. So it is important to run the cells in order generally. So start at the top and run these cells. So I would run this cell and then I would run this cell. And again, it'll often show you what order you're running the cells in. So this was cell number 2 and this will be cell number 3 here. And again, the idea is that you can run the cells in any section in order, but you can also skip from one section to the other as long as you do section 0 first. Okay. So again, your goal is to go through this, read this. Sometimes there'll be links to videos you have to watch or articles to read in these learning activities. Read these, and then there'll be questions you have to answer, and those questions are in the learning write-up. So you'll click on that and go to the learning write-up. So inside the learning write-up, there will be different tasks. The tasks will match the task here, and then there'll be a set of questions. So in task 1, we have question 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, and then you can just type in your answer here. And again, assuming you've made your own copy of it, this is my copy. I can see my account here. So if you're in here and you see my copy, you won't be able to edit it. So that's why you have to make sure you make your own copy of this. In general, I'll try to post links to these so that some of these might force you to make a copy, but I can't do that on all of these things. So just so you'll go through this. Here you just have to watch this video, read this article, and answer those questions in the write-up. Here's an introduction to Python. And again, you can click on this and walk through this simple lesson. Now this is actually just the beginning of a long lesson, so I don't want you to do the entire lesson, but you can start that. So it talks about Python and gives you some information. It has some code in here. I can copy that code out and paste it in here. In fact, I've already pasted that first code in here, and I can run this. So I can either hit the run button or hit, again, Control Enter to run that, and it'll print out the results of that down below. As I'm going through this code and trying things out, I might be, going through this different things and want to try out, say, oh, what does this code here do? So I can, again, I should be able to highlight that code, copy it, go in here and paste that code in. Why isn't paste working? I'm going to do Control V. I didn't see why paste wasn't working there. And then I can run this code here. And I can also delete these cells. When I add cells, I can add new code cells or text cells. So if you want to add some comments or some information, you can add either a text cell and type in a note to yourself about these notebooks, or if you want to try out some more code, you can add some code cells for these. Okay, so section 2 deals with the introduction of Python, and again, in the write-up here, let me close the Python tutorial. In the write-up, there's some questions related to this. Now, this is not a programming course, and it's not a math course necessarily, so I will not be teaching you a lot of programming or a lot of math, and so we'll be using something what I call just-in-time learning for programming and some of the statistical stuff we need. So when we come to different programming concepts, I'll try to teach you those, and we won't delve too deep into those or some of the mathematical concepts. We'll try to overview those and teach you enough to know. Now, if you are interested in programming, feel free to learn more. Same with some of the statistical and math concepts, and so I at times may link in some additional concepts here, and particularly in the questions, sometimes I'll have bonus challenges that might ask you to look up or go a little bit further beyond the question here. But bonus challenges are they are optional, and you will not lose points by skipping the bonus challenges. So remember that. Okay, back to our notebook. So we've done, let's see, so we've done section 1, minimize that. We've done section 2 here, and now we're on to section 3, which is a quick introduction to Jupyter Notebooks. And again, there's a link here that you can click on to look at that. And that's again what we looked at earlier in this course, going over Jupyter Notebooks. And then there's some sample code here for you to run through and execute. So again, when you're going through these, you can just either click the run button, or I often find it just easier to hold down Shift Enter to run these. Shift Enter will run each command and go to the next command. You can also just hit the run all here to run all these cells, and you can see what they are. And look, it's good to try to look through this code a little bit, try to understand what it's doing. There should be comments here to try to describe what it is for this. And again, you can try out different things to see if you want to enter your own code or try to adjust codes. And again, this will be more important later on when we learn more about these systems, and we're setting up machine learning models, and a lot of your work will be, I'll set up a basic machine learning model and show you different options, and then you will have to experiment with different options in the code that's already set up there. So now, sometimes, let me run through some of this code here. Some of this code is going to be take a little longer. Like most of these cells, they just execute very quickly here, and they don't take much time. But like here, this last graph cell, this could take a while to run. So when I click on it, it'll show the running button here that says it's running. So again, this is trying to plot 25,000 items on a graph, and so this might take a minute or two. Now later on, when we get to training more complex machine learning algorithms, this might take 5 minutes. At points, this will take more than an hour to run some of our training things. So we'll talk about ways to maintain this. But again, at times you'll see notes. I will try to put a note on cells which I expect to take a long time up here or above it, so that you know that this should take a while to run for this. Okay, so here's the graph popped up. So again, back in Brightspace for these learning activities here, you'll want to submit a link to your Collab notebook and a shared link to your write-up here. So these two documents, you want to submit those both here. Now, with these learning activities, this is supposed to be kind of active learning. So one of the goals is to encourage you to share solutions. You can post solutions to the discussion threads. There will be discussion threads for each unit. And you can seek advice from an instructor or peers. You can even work together on these things. Scoring will be a little more lenient on these things. So every unit will have a learning activity associated with it. And then every 2 units will have a larger project done due here. So we'll have a larger project. Now projects are will have a different grading criteria. It'll be more individual work, less shared advice. Again, we can share information, but again, don't want you posting full solutions to projects here, where on these learning activities it's fine if you share full solutions to things as we go along. So we'll talk more about projects later on, but the learning activities are supposed to be kind of a fun learning way to cover the material, especially since we don't have a fixed textbook in this course. So okay, hope you enjoyed this first learning activity.